hands quite as efficiently, and they transfer it to other people or surfaces. Like if you go to a restaurant, if they didn't wash their hands, they handle silverware and they transfer it to the silverware, and the person eats the with the silverware and gets it. Fecal on the silverware going into their mouth. Yeah.
In my high school, one of the lunch ladies was diagnosed with
HPA?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And no one
Hepatitis.
wanted to eat the lunch after that.
No, and the thing is there's an inoculation period which is highly contagious even in the presence of that person.
But it's not forever.
No, it's not forever.
It's curable and no.
Well, it's not
Taking-
cured. I want to mention this. It's a virus. It's not cured. You have it, you are a carrier. It is hidden in your cells for the rest of your life,
Like HPV, right?
like any other. Once you have it for life. Does that mean you're immune? Well, your immune system will retain it and keep it under wraps. But can you actually leach out and transfer it? Definitely. 100%. Okay? Hold on. Hepatitis B is bloodborne.
Contact blood, yeah.
That's the number one that you always hear about with healthcare. Hep C is also bloodborne.
Yep.
Hepatitis C usually leads to
A lot
liver
of sexual
failure.
transmitted.
What's that?
B and C are sexual transmitted.
Yes, they can be. And C, by the way, you guys might recognize a couple people, like Pam Anderson.
Yeah.
She has it, hepatitis C. Recently, one of the judges died. You know, yeah. She was actually diagnosed years ago. That's why they actually decided to disband their musical talent group between her and her, And why? Because the possibility, and I want you to realize, because it actually has a progressive liver damage, hepatitis C, it actually causes it to eventually fail.
Isn't there a cure, isn't there a major treatment for Hep C now?
There's a lot of treatments. It's a matter of what works or slows it down. Like, one of the things that they'll do is they'll use cocktails. That doesn't mean the cocktail we were talking about when you're going out to drink. I'm talking about medication cocktails, like they do with HIV, where they actually have things that are antivirals. They use also interferon in that cocktail. You guys know about interferon? Oh my God, really? You never heard of it?
Yes, I have.
You have, okay. Interferon was, just so you guys know, is a medication that was actually discovered in the late 70s, early 80s, thereabouts. Interferon, which is really, really interesting stuff. You get cells. You guys know what cells look like right here? We'll just grab a whole bunch of cells right here. Nice bunch of cells.
It kind of looks like grapes.
Real nice cells. One of these cells gets infected with a virus. We don't care which virus, it's a virus. Well, as a result, it produces this protein, interferon. And the interferon immunizes the surrounding cells. So these cells are now non-susceptible to that virus. They are immune to it. Okay? So this is one of the reasons it was thought of as being the cure-all for cancer, because there's a lot of viruses that infect people and they lead to a cancer, like human papilloma virus. Okay? Yes?
So for instance, Hep B or Hep A, whatever, people do blood tests to see if they have it.
Yeah.
But if their immune is low or they don't have it and they get the vaccine and they're still not immune to it, like.
Yeah,
Then what
it
do
can
they
be.
do?
Keep in mind, hepatitis B, there's 3 shots. In other words, you get 2 boosters.
Yes, they're painful.
Oh yeah, and there's a time frame. You get it now, you get it 6 months, and then you get it a year from then.
I think it was 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months.
It's longer. It is.
Really?
Yeah,
Why did
and
I
it
do
depends
that?
on titers.
That is the HPV.
Yeah,
Yeah, HPV.
yeah.
Yeah, hepatitis B.
But it
It's,
depends on
one-
titers also.
No, HPV is human papilloma.
No, I know, I was talking about Hep B though.
Yeah, human papillomavirus she's talking about.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's the one, okay? But hepatitis B vaccine, it has a 6 month and a 1 year.
But no,
In
they do
between.
CDC, they do the, belly rubbing,
Mhm.
and they look at the numbers from the liver, wouldn't they be able to test if you have like form hepatitis?
No,
Is a specialized test?
yeah. They used to use a blood test to see a titer and to see if you have levels of antibodies that are produced from it. That's how they do it. Okay? Anyway, getting back to this. So when they first discovered, they thought it was a cure-all for cancers. Well, the problem was the level of it that was needed to fight off the cancer was only isolated to a small area of the body. And the amount they would have had to give to the patient to actually affect the entire body would have been a much higher dose, which would have then caused more problems, side effects, things like that, which would have been, not controllable as far as the results. So they stopped, they didn't use it at the time. But they did research and they found other interferons, and we have a whole bunch of them. And what happened is, basically, they did also identify that when they actually found HIV and they found, antivirals, they also use this as part of it, as the cocktail to actually reduce the effects of the virus that has infected the person. And so they also use this now with hepatitis in some times, okay? Bloodborne hepatitis. But I will tell you, hepatitis B, like I said, there is a vaccine. You also can you get over it and you just live with it. Hepatitis C, on the other hand, will give progressive liver damage, which is why, people that actually have it may eventually no longer live because their liver fails. And guess how Pam Anderson probably got that?
Sexually transmitted.
Yeah, sex from Tommy Lee, who has a whole bunch of tattoos, because tattoos was also a source.
Yeah.
For B.
The needles initially, and later on, the dyes, because they didn't realize they had to sterilize the dyes. So, a lot of interesting stuff, right? So when you drink and you actually consume medications, that's one of the reasons why you can also get liver damage. I used to know somebody that what happened was they were on doctor's care. They actually had bad knees because they actually became a professional bowler by the age of 12. Ooh, at 12, professional.
Professional
Bowler,
bowler.
yeah, bowler, bowling.
Yeah. Bad knees for the bowler.
Bad knees. And so in their early adulthood, they were going to the doctors because their knees were shot. And what I mean by shot, they can't bowl anymore because every couple of years they actually have to have knee reconstruction.
Is that the same as an
And they're under doctor's care, giving them about 8 to 10 Advil a day to try to relieve the pain. Every day. So it's. But guess what's going to happen eventually to the liver?
It's not gonna work,
It's intestines. That 10 inches of the duodenum. That basically is that transitory piece of location where we actually get the introduction of what we just talked about. Okay? But the small intestines basically look more like this, where you have the villi. It also has microvilli, where we actually have these finger-like structures that create the brush border for increased absorption. So in the duodenum, first 10 inches, what are we actually seeing? We're seeing the introduction of pancreatic juices. We're seeing the introduction of the bile from the liver and the gallbladder. And that's where we're actually progressing on those enzymes that we actually talked about on the board the other day.
It's the first 10 inches of the duodenum.
the first
Duodenum,
10 inches
10 inches.
of the small intestines, where we have the introduction of the pancreatic juices, the bile from the liver and the gallbladder. And we also have it neutralization of the chyme, the acid chyme into basic chyme, because we actually have to change the
pH balance.
because the pH has to change so that we can actually then have the reactions of all those other enzymes to work better. Trypsin comes from the pancreas, which is that other enzyme for breaking down proteins. We also have, let's say, the lipase, and we have also, like I mentioned earlier today, we also have all the other enzymes. We have pancreatic amylase also, which is now in a more basic pH. And so what happens is, it goes there, and basically what happens is, we have, at the jejunum, it's starting to break down more so into the various components, and we have the absorption going on. At the jejunum, most of it is right in the middle, we have that going on, and we also have the ileum going on. We also have goblet cells. You guys might remember goblet cells. Goblet cells are actually there to actually provide additional moisture, mucus. Why more moisture? Because if you guys remember what I had mentioned, I believe Monday or Tuesday, we need water to break those larger molecules into smaller molecules, and each bond. So basically what happens in the intestines, you've got this nice liquid going on, a basic chyme. And we also start the real absorption of the nutrients in that. That is basically the small intestines. The ileum, you'll actually see a lot of your minerals being absorbed, like potassium. Okay? So you get most of the, and I'll just put this one up just so you guys see that real quickly. And so you get a better insight of where we're actually looking. There. Okay. Why don't we stop at this point? And
Oh, thank God.
you guys